The world evolves every day, but who could forget the simple things that used to make the world fun? True, younger generations would never understand what it feels like to spend hours in video rental stores or what sleeping on a waterbed felt like. However, these were things that made life more livable and beautiful. It's Memory Surge. My name is Kevin, and we reveal the 50 things that disappeared when the internet took over. Disposable cameras. How old were you during the time people clicked through 24 photos, hoping at least a few turned out okay? With disposable cameras, you had one shot, no previews, no filters. You captured real moments, sometimes beautifully imperfect. Then came the wait to develop them and the excitement of flipping through fresh prints. Now phones give us endless takes, but there was something pure about snapping a photo and letting it live in mystery until you picked it up at the store. Computer labs. Back when home computers were rare, computer labs at schools were a big deal. Waiting in line to use a bulky desktop, you would carefully save your work on a floppy disk or jump drive. It was a shared space where you learned coding basics or played early games with friends. The atmosphere was noisy and electric, buzzing with anticipation. Today, everyone has a powerful computer in their pocket, but computer labs remind us how far technology has come and how exciting it was to get our hands on one. Carrying around an MP3 player. Before phones became all-in-one devices, carrying an MP3 player was the way to listen to music on the go. It would be clipped to your pocket or bag. It held your carefully curated playlists and was a little piece of personal freedom. From the first iPods to smaller players, these gadgets changed how we experienced music. Today, smartphones handle it all, but those dedicated devices had a simplicity that many still remember fondly. Flip phones. Flip phones were a whole vibe. Snapping it open to answer, dramatically closing it after a call, it was peak cool. You'd text using T9 and somehow get fast at it, personalize your ringtone, and guard that tiny screen with your life. They were simpler, sturdier, and strangely satisfying to use. No distractions, just calls, texts, and Snake. Now some people miss them enough to go back. In a world of endless apps, flip phones remind us, sometimes less is more. TV Guide magazine. Before binge-watching and autoplay, the TV Guide was the real deal. It told us what was on, when, and where. We'd flip through pages, circling our favorite shows, planning our week around that big movie premiere. Some even collected old issues. It was part schedule, part entertainment, with celebrity covers and behind-the-scenes scoops. Now digital guides update in seconds, but the thrill of holding that slim little magazine, flipping to your time zone and discovering a new show was something oldies look out for. Waiting for photos to be developed. People didn't always know what they captured on camera until they got the film developed. That meant dropping off your roll at a store, waiting days or an hour if you were fancy. Some photos were blurry, some had a thumb in the corner, but each one told a real unfiltered story. You'd slide them into albums or hang them on your wall. Now we take a dozen selfies and delete most instantly. Mixtapes. Making a mixtape used to be an art form because you weren't just burning songs. It was more than that. Whether it was a crush, a best friend, or a road trip, each track had a reason for being there. You'd wait by the radio to catch that one perfect song, hit record at just the right moment, and hope the DJ didn't talk over the intro. Then you'd carefully write out each song title on the cassette case. Today we make playlists in seconds, but a mixtape? That was an effort. That was love and a certain degree of dedication. Phone books. There was a time when every household had a bulky yellow and white paged phone book sitting near the landline. If you needed a plumber, a pizza place, or your cousin in another neighborhood, that book had it. We'd flip through alphabetized names, often finding businesses with names like AAA Electric, just to be first in the listings. Now, we Google everything. Yes, it is fast, but phone books gave us a weird thrill, like hunting for goodies. Calling movie theaters for showtimes. Do you recall dialing the local movie theater just to hear a robotic voice rattle off all the showtimes? Now playing at 4:15, 6:45, and 9:30, you had to listen carefully or risk missing your film. Sometimes you'd have to call back 2 or 3 times. Today, a few clicks online and you have got trailers, seat maps, and times instantly. Convenient, yes, but calling in made movie night feel like an event. Plus, it taught us the fine art of patience and using the speakerphone while writing things down. Desktop dictionaries and thesauruses. Before autocorrect and Google definitions, we turned to thick dictionaries and thesauruses that lived on desks and bookshelves. Writing essays meant physically thumbing through pages to find the perfect word or check spelling. You didn't just copy and paste a definition. You read it, absorbed it, and maybe even got distracted by another cool word along the way. These books made us better writers and more curious thinkers. Now, while digital tools are fast, they rarely match the thrill of flipping through a well-worn, word-packed tome. Printed travel tickets. There was something satisfying about holding your printed airline or bus ticket in hand. It showed that you were about to take off on an adventure. You'd tuck it into a passport or wallet, double-check the departure gate, and pray it didn't get crumpled or lost. Losing your ticket was panic-inducing. No two ways to put it. Today, it's all QR codes and mobile apps. Sure, it's easier, but paper tickets made the journey feel real. Postcards from vacations. Once upon a time, vacation meant sending postcards. People would pick out a scenic one, scribble a quick note like, "Wish you were here," then drop it in the mail. It might arrive after you get home, but it was heartfelt. Receiving a postcard felt personal, like someone paused their trip just to think of you. Now people post photos online instantly, and the charm is lost. No handwritten notes, no funny stamps, no guessing games of where the card was sent from. Just pixels. Pretty, but not as precious. CDs for installing software. Installing software used to mean opening a box, pulling out a shiny disk, and waiting forever while your computer groaned through the setup. Wait for it. You would pray it didn't crash halfway or ask for disk 2. Manuals came thick as bricks, and tech support numbers were printed inside. These days, we download apps in seconds. No packaging, no plastic, no drama. While downloads are faster, those CD installs made you feel like you were truly adding something important to your computer. Memorizing phone numbers. There was a time you knew your best friend's number, your grandma's, your home landline, even your crush's, by heart. Numbers weren't just stored in a phone. They lived in your memory. You dialed them without thinking and even used them in songs to remember. If your battery died, you could still call for help. These days, we barely know our own numbers. Everything's saved, synced, and backed up. Rewinding VHS tapes. How could anyone forget the sacred duty of rewinding a movie before returning it? Be Kind Rewind was the sticker you would find on each, but it was also a moral code. If you had a VHS player that could auto-rewind, you felt like royalty. Watching a movie wasn't just play and pause, it was a full ritual, and nothing killed the mood like realizing the last person didn't rewind. Today's streaming skips that entirely as there is no longer an effort. Handwritten grocery lists. There was something wonderful about scribbling down your grocery needs on a scrap of paper or the back of an envelope. You'd carry it through the aisles like a treasure map. Sometimes items were added by other family members, and if you lost the list, your whole trip felt doomed. Now we have apps and voice assistants, but it's just not the same. Handwritten lists felt personal, messy, and real. Floppy disks. In those days, if you had a floppy disk, you were carrying high-tech storage in your pocket. This sounds funny, but only the geeks and techies had them. You could fit 1 or 2 documents, maybe a blurry image if you were lucky. We used them for school papers, saved games, and files we hoped wouldn't suddenly vanish. And remember the panic when you'd accidentally bend one or it made that clicking sound? It's true that floppies were unreliable, slow, and small, but they were ours, even though they're now extinct. Printed encyclopedias. Having a complete set of encyclopedias on your shelf makes your home feel smarter. Parents proudly displayed them, and kids used them for every school report. You'd pull out a volume and start with one topic, only to get lost learning about something completely different. They were heavy and smelled bookish. Now we just Google everything and even groan when it's not fast enough. Payphones. There used to be a time when payphones were scattered across every street corner, gas station, and mall. Payphones were our lifeline. Need a ride? Emergency? You'd dig for a quarter and make that call. Some booths even had phone books hanging in them. You had to memorize numbers or carry them written down. Now they are nearly vanished and have been replaced by smartphones in every pocket. Boredom. Believe it or not, we used to be bored, and that wasn't always a bad thing. Waiting in line, sitting in a car, or lying in bed with nothing to do sparked creativity. We'd daydream, doodle, make up games, or just sit and think. Now the internet fills every second. No pause, no downtime. While constant entertainment is tempting, boredom gives us breathing space. It made room for imagination, reflection, and real connection with other people. Wall calendars with notes and stickers. There was a time when families hung a calendar in the kitchen with birthdays, appointments, and reminders scribbled in different colors. Stickers meant vacations or doctor visits, and the whole family could see what was coming up. You'd flip each month with excitement or dread, depending on what was scheduled. Now everything's digital, but those wall calendars were more than dates. They were a snapshot of family life. Photo albums before cloud storage and scrolling through endless digital pics, we had photo albums, big, bulky books filled with real, printed photos. Each page was a memory. Birthdays, vacations, school dances, goofy moments. They lived on coffee tables or in closets, waiting to be flipped through during family gatherings. You'd laugh at bad haircuts, marvel at how fast kids grew, and sometimes tear up. Albums made memories tangible. Today's photos live online, but the joy of turning a page and touching the past is long gone. Pen pals. Remember waiting weeks for a letter from someone across the globe or even the next town? Pen pals gave you a peek into another world through colorful stamps and heartfelt handwriting. You'd swap stories, favorite songs, or even photos. It was slow, but it felt personal. No typing, no autocorrect, just you, your thoughts, and a pen. The internet gave us instant messages and social media, but it took away that beautiful anticipation of waiting for something exciting in the mailbox. Burning CDs for friends. Creating a custom mix CD was a love language in the 2000s. You'd spend hours picking just the right tracks, designing a cover with Sharpies or stickers, and maybe writing a note on the inside. Whether it was for a crush, a best friend, or a road trip, that burned CD said, "I get you." Now we share playlists in seconds, but something's missing. Burning a CD took effort, taste, and a little bit of heart. Landline phones. Before everyone carried a phone in their pocket, we had the trusty landline, often with a super long cord that stretched from the kitchen to the hallway. You'd twirl the cord while chatting, cover the receiver to whisper secrets, and slam it down during teen drama. Caller ID was a luxury. You actually had to answer to find out who it was. Today's cell phones are sleek, but those old phones had character, and they never needed charging. Chain letters. Chain letters were the original viral messages. You'd get one in the mail or email, urging you to copy it and pass it on to avoid bad luck or gain a mysterious blessing. Sometimes they were silly. Other times they tugged at your heartstrings. They created a strange sense of community, like everyone was in on the same secret ritual. Now, memes and tweets go viral, but chain letters? They had just the right mix of superstition and drama to keep things interesting. Newspaper classifieds. There was a whole section in the newspaper dedicated to job ads, rentals, garage sales, and missed connections. People would circle listings in pen, fold the page, and start calling. No scrolling, no filters, just columns of tiny print and the hope you'd find what you needed. Now it's all online and optimized, but classifieds had charm. They felt local, real, and full of possibility. Plus, who doesn't miss reading the occasional oddly funny or overly dramatic ad? Store catalogs. Flipping through a giant catalog was half the fun of shopping. You'd dog-ear pages, dream about toys, furniture, or that one outfit that screamed, "you." Holiday catalogs felt like magical previews of what could be under the tree. Kids would make wish lists by circling everything with bright markers. Now we browse online, but swiping can't match the joy of thumbing through glossy pages and imagining a whole new life with that beanbag chair. Dial-up modems. Do you remember the screechy beeps and static hiss of dial-up internet? That sound may be strange, but it meant you were about to enter the World Wide Web if nobody picked up the phone. The internet back then wasn't as instant as it is today. Quite frankly, we could call it an event. You clicked connect, grabbed a snack, and hoped the connection would hold. Back in the day, pages loaded slowly and downloading a single photo could take forever. Nobody could have imagined a time when it would be possible to download music or stream movies. But it felt exciting, like you were unlocking a new world one pixel at a time. Kids today have Wi-Fi everywhere, but they'll never understand the thrill and pain of dial-up. Actual photo frames on desks. Before screensavers and digital galleries, people kept real photos in frames on desks, bedside tables, and living room shelves. A favorite moment frozen in time, there to make you smile during a rough workday or late-night study session. Whether it was a baby photo, a wedding day, or a goofy friend pic, framed photos made a space feel personal. Now, we have thousands of photos saved digitally, but that one framed picture said, "This matters most." Physical bank statements. Opening the mailbox and finding a bank envelope used to be normal. You'd unfold those monthly statements and check every transaction like a detective. Maybe you balanced your checkbook or at least tried. While digital banking is more convenient, printed statements make your finances feel tangible, something you could hold, file, and understand without logging in. Plus, seeing those little envelopes reminded you to pay attention. Now it's just another unread email. Asking strangers for directions. Before smartphones turned us all into mini GPS units, getting lost wasn't exactly a thing that got parents and family worried like today. In fact, some would call it part of the adventure. You had to pull over, roll down your window, and ask a stranger how to find Elm Street or the nearest gas station. Sometimes they drew maps on napkins. Sometimes they gave you terrible directions, but with the best intentions. It created little moments of trust and connection. Nowadays, you just ask Siri or Google, and voila, you are guided every step of the way. Alarm clocks. Before smartphones took over, alarm clocks did the job of waking us up for school or work. The satisfying buzz or ringing bell was your daily wake-up call, often jolting you out of a deep sleep. You would slam that snooze button a few times, maybe even knock it off the nightstand in a groggy haze. Now alarms are on our phones with endless sound options and gentle vibrations, but there was something simple and dependable about that old-school clock. Plus, no distractions waiting for you after you turn it off. Board games as primary entertainment. Before video games, board games were the heart of family nights and friend hangouts. Scrabble, Monopoly, Clue, and the rest of these games brought people together around the table for hours of laughter, competition, and good-natured teasing. No internet needed, just a shared space and some snacks. Today, digital games and streaming dominate, but board games have a charm that no screen can replace. Using a library catalog. Remember those big wooden drawers full of tiny cards? Before online search, finding a book meant digging through those catalog cards, alphabetized by author or title. It was almost an adventure, flipping through stacks looking for the correct info. The tactile nature of those cards made the library feel magical. Now, digital catalogs give instant answers, but the card catalog was a hands-on experience that turned book hunting into a little treasure hunt. Writing letters by hand. Before emails and instant messages, people used to pour their thoughts into handwritten letters. You would sit at a desk, choose your paper carefully, maybe even spritz it with perfume if you were feeling extra. Then you would think about every word, every line. Then you'd seal it, stamp it, and wait. The reply might take a week or more, but it was worth it. You could feel the sender's personality in their handwriting. These days, we type, delete, and send in seconds. It's fast, but it lacks the soul and sentiment those handwritten letters had. In-person gossip. Before social media spread news instantly, gossip was a face-to-face affair. You would hear the latest scoop during lunch, after class, or at a party. It was whispered secrets, shared smiles, and sometimes rumors that got wildly out of hand. This kind of gossip creates bonds and sometimes drama. The immediacy of online chatter has replaced it, but nothing quite matches the thrill of a hushed conversation or a knowing look across the room. Printed maps and atlases. GPS does the trick these days, but before its arrival, road trips involved unfolding huge printed maps, tracing routes with your finger, and sometimes arguing over directions. Atlases were your go-to for exploring places you'd never been to. Getting lost wasn't just possible, it was part of the trip. Now, smartphones reroute us instantly, but printed maps had a charm and tangibility that digital maps can't match. Plus, there was a satisfaction in planning a trip with paper in hand. Long commercial breaks with no skip option. Waiting through commercials was just part of watching TV. People would shuffle around the room, grab snacks, or chat, knowing you couldn't skip those ads no matter how much you wanted to. It made returning to the show feel like a mini reward. Now, streaming services let us skip commercials or avoid them entirely. But those long breaks had a weird comfort, like a built-in pause button during a busy moment. Getting lost. In the pre-GPS world, getting lost on a trip was anxiety and excitement rolled into one. You'd rely on landmarks, strangers, or old-school maps to find your way back. Sometimes it meant unexpected discoveries, other times frustration. Today, GPS guides us step by step, minimizing detours. But losing your way had a certain feeling as those moments forced you to slow down, explore, and trust your instincts. Personal diaries. Before the internet, almost everyone who loved writing owned a diary. It was that little book that held secrets, dreams, thoughts, fantasies, and everyday drama. People used to hide because, well, it's their thoughts only this time. Written for various reasons. You'd lock them away or hide them under your bed, hoping no one would find your deepest secrets. Unlike today's blogs or social media posts, diaries were personal, raw, and meant only for your eyes. Writing was a private act of reflection, a way to make sense of your world. These days, we have online diaries, but nothing can truly replace the beautiful feeling of pouring out one's mind. Collecting business cards. Business cards used to be little tokens exchanged after meetings, events, or networking. People carefully collected them in special holders or boxes, often flipping through to remember faces and contacts. It was a more personal, tactile way of staying connected. Today, digital contacts in LinkedIn have largely replaced this practice, but those small cards held memories, conversations, and opportunities in a way a phone contact just can't capture. Recording songs off the radio. If you loved a song but didn't have the album, you'd rush to hit record on your cassette player as the DJ played it on the radio. It was a bit of a gamble as you wanted to catch the intro just right while hoping no one interrupted you. These mixtapes were personal playlists before Spotify or Apple Music. There was something thrilling about capturing a perfect moment in sound, even if it came with a few radio announcer interruptions or static noise. Physical magazines in waiting rooms. Waiting rooms were full of magazines you would flip through and find articles on cosmetics, sports, gossip, or health. They were your escape during those idle moments, full of glossy pages and ads. Unlike endless scrolling on phones, these magazines offered a tactile experience, sometimes even a communal one if you passed them around. Today, digital distractions dominate waiting time, but those paper magazines were once a window into worlds beyond the waiting room walls. Solitaire with real cards. Playing solitaire with an actual deck of cards was a common way to pass time. No screen, no app, just shuffling and laying out the cards on a table or floor. It was a quiet, meditative break that helped sharpen your mind. Sure, digital solitaire apps exist now, but the feel of real cards and the sound of shuffling added a little extra satisfaction and calm that pixels can't quite match. Waiting all week for a new TV episode. These days, we binge watch, but back then, you'd eagerly wait all week for your favorite TV show's next episode. It was a mix of anticipation, speculation, and social bonding, talking plot twists with friends and family. The suspense made every new episode feel like an event. Now, streaming lets you watch entire seasons at once, but that weekly wait made TV viewing feel special. Chain stores, selling CDs and DVDs. Visiting stores like Tower Records or Blockbuster to browse CDs or DVDs was a weekend ritual for many. You would explore aisles, read album covers, and maybe discover a new favorite artist. It was a social experience chatting with staff or friends about the latest releases. Digital downloads and streaming have mostly replaced these trips, but who could forget the thrill of hunting for music and movies in real stores? Handwritten directions. When going on a trip, asking someone for directions often meant scribbling detailed instructions on a napkin or scrap paper. These handwritten notes became your map, guiding you through unfamiliar streets. There was trust involved, as you hoped those arrows and landmarks would get you where you needed to go. Today, apps handle the navigation, but those scrawled directions carried a personal touch and sometimes a funny story if you got lost anyway. Chain stores for developing film. Dropping off rolls of film at stores like Walgreens or CVS was part of the photo-taking process. You'd wait days for prints, wondering if your shots came out well. Picking up those envelopes was always a little suspenseful and exciting. With digital cameras and smartphones, film development stores have mostly disappeared. However, the anticipation of waiting for physical photos is a feeling many miss. Video rental stores. Who could forget the Friday night ritual visits to Blockbuster or the neighborhood video shop to rent movies? People roamed the aisles, weighing their options, reading summaries on the back of each VHS tape. If your pick was already gone, you had to compromise. In truth, they taught patience and maybe how to argue with siblings. These days, those traits are fast disappearing. We simply no longer have patience for the slightest of things. People would rewind tapes before returning them, trying not to get charged extra. There was just something special about holding the physical copy of a film you couldn't stream anytime. Good old days they were. Which of these things did you remember or even participate in? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, share, and subscribe to this channel.